Have they started up a new season?
So today someone was watching Cartoon Network
Mhm.
and the first episode of the new season played and they were like, what the fuck? So it was a reverse April Fool's where they just didn't
Mhm.
tell anyone that today was going to be the new season. And so like Reddit is just going insane.
They trolled everybody, huh?
Well, yeah, because everyone's been waiting forever for the show to start. And so now the number one thing on Reddit is what the fuck, the show just started playing. No one knew it was going to happen.
That's kind of stupid marketing.
Are we ready to do this?
Oh, it's
You
brilliant.
guys are jabbering.
Yeah, let's
Time's
do it.
ticking. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Eric,
Can you
how's
give
it
me the
going?
name? Can you give me the name of a very popular football player for the Washington Redskins whose number was number 55? That's right, Chris Hamburger. Very good, Thomas. Very good. This is episode 55 of PHP Ugly, the Chris Hamburger edition. How you doing, Thomas? John, how's it going?
Oh, I'm doing good.
That was a horrible intro.
I'm kind of in a sports mode right now. We've got the NCAA tournament going on, which I've lost the office pool on that. I had a huge comeback from next to last to second place, but it looks like I've lost that pool. We've got baseball season starting up tomorrow. It's Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Who's the defending World Series champions? Who are they going to be? Who is it?
I know this one.
You know it.
It's the Back
Defending
to the Future thing.
World Series champions.
Oh god, I want to say the Twins, but I know that's not it.
So, you know what? I'm encouraged that you even named a baseball team. To be honest with you.
No, it's the New York.
No, you're so close.
Oh god.
It's unbearable how close you are. It's so
the Blue Hawks.
Or the Cubs. The Cubs. Would have been would have been an accepted answer. That's right. I got another one for you. So before the season starts, there's a baseball tournament called the World Baseball Championship. And that
oh my god, what's the name of this podcast again?
That just concluded. Can you tell me who won that? Either one of you. No. Either one of you gave me that name.
Japan.
Jesus.
So they
At least you named a country. You named a country. I'm proud of you. John?
What?
The USA won. USA won it.
Yeah, Atlantic Ocean. I don't know what you're even talking about. I stopped listening 5 minutes ago.
Baseball is starting. My nipples are hard. I love baseball.
Here's the thing about baseball.
All right, fine. We're not going to talk about. I'm going to talk about.
I got lost on number 55, and then I just stopped listening.
Number 55, Chris Hamburger. My dad bought a truck from Chris Hamburger after his career was over. That is.
Oh, that Chris Hamburger.
I actually got to meet him. Massive hands. I was a young child, and his hands just wrapped around me. It was terrifying.
just choked the life out of you.
Great guy. Yes. Well, okay. So if we're not going to speak sports, what's been going on in everybody? That's all I've been doing all week is watching sports. So
I've noticed you've contributed very little to our list of conversation points here.
Dude, you were hammering away at it.
Contribute way more than I have.
Man,
a lot of stuff's been going on.
What are you jumping into the news? Are we going to have our normal little conversation on what
you
everybody's
asked me
working
what's
on?
Been going on this week?
And
what
that's
I've been
all that's been
working
going on is whatever you've been doing, whatever you've been reading. Wait, what is happening to this podcast? We're not some puke out the news freaking podcast, you bastard. We're real people. We're developers. We're in the real world. Things are happening for us, and
Somebody started
we are
drinking early.
sharing that. What?
Somebody started drinking way early.
I'm working on a total rewrite again of our main landing page because it's slow. And I'm still working on that data repair that we were talking about last week. And that's about it.
Yeah.
My boss is now a world traveler. So he's out in the Philippines at some wedding ceremony.
I gotta see if he's going to tech. I need to give him a hard time.
I don't know,
John,
what have you guys
about
been doing?
What have you been up to?
Oh, what haven't I been up to? Let's see. Wow, I am not prepared for this question.
You would think it wasn't asked of you every week. I don't know.
Or
I
the
just
fact
don't
that
think
you
he's done
asked me.
anything this week.
I haven't. We're two nights late. I'm so confused as it is. Eric threw me with the sports stuff. Way off my game.
Yeah, you guys got to stay on your toes around me. I gotta keep the juices flowing in the old membrane there. You guys will get stale on me if I don't. We had how did my week go? My week went well, guys.
I was about to ask.
Appreciate that. No, yeah, we had a real good Laracast live. Had taken a little bit of a hiatus from the show. I've been off it for a month. I missed the show because we were dealing with some work issues and just couldn't get around to recording. And we actually had a guest reschedule on us, so we ended up punting on the show. And so came back, talked to Ben Edmond, who does PHP Town Hall, the PHP Town Hall podcast. Does a lot of conference talks, written some books. Great show, though. I mean, he's a fantastic guy to talk to, and probably one of the more enjoyable Laracast lives I've done. He's just a funny cat, man, I tell you. So that went well. Work's going well. Stress levels are reducing a little. We're reducing red tickets for one of our main clients. Another client, we're starting to get some traction on some services we're trying to get blessed by a bigger corporate industry. So things are going well. It's good.
Taking over an existing project can be a pain in the butt for sure. Trying to figure out how everything ties together.
Especially when you're talking code, infrastructure, we're kind of on the hook for the way these servers were configured. That we're now kind of reworking because the corporation that has to bless it wasn't happy with some of the security, so we're kind of to rework some of the servers. But yeah, it's a struggle because there's so many unknowns. And we were on a call with the client this past week, basically saying, "Hey, what all do we need to be testing here? What are all the little nooks and crannies that we might not know about?" So that's always fun, but we're making progress.
That's a good thing. And we have a new one coming on this week. Looking forward to that too.
Yeah, another client. So
you're definitely staying busy. I think I saw somebody tweet out about you being on the show. Was it Sean? Just praising you and saying what a great guy you are.
I actually reached out to Sean the next day. That's probably one of the nicest things somebody had ever said about me over Twitter.
I thought it was super nice. And then I was wondering if I thought they typed somebody's name wrong and it somehow came out Shokum or something.
So some sort of autofill accident.
Yeah, I was very touched by that. I even showed my wife. I'm like, hey, that's a compliment, isn't it? It's so weird. Is that a compliment? She's like, yeah, it looks like a compliment to me.
It was very nice. I'm trying to find it so I can give you the credit you need, but deserve. But I'm not finding it right now. I'm sorry. I should have had that pulled up and ready to go.
I'm gonna
Well,
break
I've-
here real quick. Hold on,
I've got
before you jump
all
into
our
anything
stuff pulled
else.
up.
Oh shit! I'm not doing timeline footnotes. Damn it! That was supposed to be here. Shit! I missed your vape too. God damn it! I put that in there. Oh well. John, do we want to allude to the controversy we dealt with, or we're dealing with at all? Or are we not worried about that?
The
As
controversy.
far as allowing contractors taking on their own clients to only find out that one of our contractors
Ooh,
took them.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
You want me to start it?
If you can think of a good lead into it, yeah, let's do that. I'd like to get Thomas's opinion on it or something.
That's how I was going to lead into it.
All right, all
I was
yours.
gonna say. So, has anything else been stolen since you got your laptop stolen?
Mm. All right, so is that an actual start, or what are we doing?
No, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
That was pretty funny. That was a good one.
That would have actually played into it pretty well.
Yeah. So, Thomas, question for you. Eric and I
Fire
have a funny situation at work right now, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So, we had a client we started doing work on, never billed them, and then decided that they were, how do you say it nicely? It wasn't a big enough client. They wanted to do 10 hours a month, which you can't really do anything 10 hours a month on and be productive.
Sure.
Since we took that client on, we have set minimums. We had a new developer on our team that did some of the work for us. And then when we cut ties with the client and just said, listen, it's just not working out. It's just too time consuming and it's just not working out. The client reached directly out to our contractor, and now that contractor is doing work for the client.
Now, keep in mind, we've always had a very open policy with all of our contractors where they're more than welcome to have other clients, and
yeah, they're not
most
employed.
of them do. Yeah, most of them do. The only thing we ask is that they let it. We don't necessarily care who the other clients are. We just want them to have two things: A, be honest with us on their availability, and B, not use Diego Dev resources on their other clients for obvious reasons.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was always there. But again, in this situation, it's weird because one of the deciding factors of bringing on this new contractor was we were getting this client. And then when it didn't work out, John and I really had to shuffle things around because although we're not obligated to meet a certain amount of hours to a contractor, we did tell this contractor that we would work on making sure they had X amount of hours. So because we dropped off this other contract, we manipulated things around, took a little bit of a bigger hit on another contract to make sure we were able to honor that agreement with this contractor. And again, this contractor was working on the contract. I don't know.
But
I'm not happy about it.
At the same time, we severed ties with the client. So that's why I keep saying I don't know how I should feel. I feel weird about it, but
Yeah.
I don't really have a right to.
Again, the client, one of the issues the client had was about deliverables and the amount of work that was being produced by the contractor.
It sounds like communication breakdown. I mean, you know, when we started working together, we were all friends. You know, from when Diego Dev started and you guys started hiring developers, it was out of a pool of people that we all knew quite well.
Mhm.
Um, floated on that sort of we know how everyone deals with situations kind of thing for a long time. Um, yeah, I mean that's a sticky situation, and there definitely should have been more transparency, I guess.
Yeah. I'd love to get other
Well,
input from other people as well.
yeah, I'm curious if you were in that situation, Thomas, if you'd worked on contracts with us in the past, and if one of those after we severed ties, if that contract had come to you and said, "Hey, I'd like you to work on this,"
Well, we had a contract that did that. We had a contract
I
where
know,
they
I know
wanted
we did.
me, yeah, they wanted me to work with them on a larger scale than I was already working with Diego Dev, and that was, hey guys, this is hilarious. Check out these chat logs. But that's because I was sharing it amongst my friends,
Hmm.
uh, and it hadn't even occurred to me that there was a conflict of interest there. It was just something that of course I would disclose. Um,
Hmm.
and my reply to contractors in the past has been, yeah, I can do contract work, but I only do it through Diego Dev. I don't manage time. I don't manage projects. So something, here's the guys you call. But that's unique to my situation because I explicitly don't want to handle anything other than just here's a thing to work on it, and turn it back out to us.
Right.
You know, I don't want to discuss
Hmm.
the my daily work is talking about viability to people. You know, something will be brought up and they'll say, "Hey, we want you to work on this," and I'll start ringing up people above me and say, "Listen, I've been doing UX and UI for years. Don't do this. This is bad." And I don't, you know, when I was working with you guys, I didn't have that input. I didn't want that input. Um, but I've always communicated with you guys, you know, pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, end of the day, the guy. I mean, the contractor's still working with us. He's still getting his hours. I mean, nothing's changed. It's just I happened to find out about it, and it just doesn't sit well with me. Uh, but it's more of a speaking of the character of the developer, in my opinion. But again, I'm not gonna hold it against the guy. I'm not gonna fault the guy for it. I was kind of curious what your thoughts were on it, and I know John and I have been talking through it a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like I said, we work together as friends who work together. Um, if I'm working for a contract company as purely as coworkers, I don't know where my loyalty falls. I would
Mhm.
probably disclose, but I couldn't really guarantee it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. It is there's a lot of layers to the situation.
Mhm.
It's hard to say decisively that a bad move was made or by whom.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think, and yeah, yeah.
All right. We don't
All
want to
right.
spend too much more time on it.
Yeah,
Before we move,
I think we talked through.
before moving on, though, I do want to say what that tweet was because it did mean a lot to me. Sean Mays tweeted out, "In doing a podcast with Shokum, every show is the best show we've ever done. That's the enthusiasm to build around."
I giggle. I laugh.
I really
It
should
was
listen to this
it was
podcast
so
someday.
nice.
This is Lair Chat Live. That's the one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The one I've been on a couple times. I don't know. I can't.
They
remember.
like me there. Yes, I
So,
was. I was
They get
very.
you before the
Awesome.
drinking starts.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Let's jump into our news.
Or news.
So this
we're going-
first one,
going
like
straight
like
into
I
the
said
news.
earlier, Thomas was a news maniac this week. I think every article on here, except for maybe one or two, are from Thomas. And this first one is so simple, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Thomas, it
I
looks like
agree.
you came across a fantastic little website. Tell
I
us
do.
about
I love this. I love this little thing. It's called gitignore.io. And if you work with Git, then you know when gitignore is valuable. You know that there's a lot of stuff compiled from CSS files and JS files. You don't want your build directories getting into Git. And there's stuff like the Laravel project where these build directories are sort of all over the place, and it doesn't come with a default gitignore that necessarily fits all of the needs that you have.
Right.
So this is just a search engine for pre-built gitignore files.
Well, no, it's not. It's not a search engine. It builds it for you. So you hit this website, gitignore.io, and you type in the project you're working on. You say if it's Laravel, you type in the IDE you're working with, or not even the IDE. You can type in Vim or Atom or Sublime. You type in the programming language, and you type in all the factors of the project. You hit create, and it pumps out a customized gitignore file for you for that project. It is absolutely fantastic.
The thing I like, I saw
used to-
PHP Storm in there, and I started looking at what it had listed and started thinking, I bet that's how you can keep all of your developers that use PHP Storm on the same coding standards, but not impact the rest of their IDE. Any of their, you won't impact, how they have it set up color-wise and all that.
I bet
So
you're right. Yeah.
So I thought that was a great idea and want to use that in my current project.
Yeah, I historically I have kept a massive gitignore file in a Git repo, and then I just pull that in, and maybe I'll pare it down if I actually think to do that. But this is awesome. I love this. I'm going to start using it more and more.
It has a command line interface as well.
No, it doesn't.
So
does it really?
Absolutely does.
Oh, I totally missed that.
So you can actually run this from your command line to generate gitignore files as part of a script.
Look at that. Hey, Thomas, it says command line docs right there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a really nicely put together site. It's really simple. It does the one job really well. It's got a video tutorial, command line version, and the whole thing is open sourced on GitHub.
So let me ask you guys this. I'm just asking this because I happened to see it when I pulled up the docs here. Do either one of you guys use a global gitignore on your system?
No. No.
Nope.
Yeah, I do, and I might start to lean away from it because it's saved me before where I won't put in certain things in my gitignore file that I am putting into a project because it's in my global, but then I find out that other people it ends up biting them because they expect something to be in the gitignore and it's not there. So yeah, it's weird. And I assume you guys knew that was actually something you could do. There is a global gitignore you can set on your system. And
I just never saw the value of it.
Yeah. Well, this is cool, Thomas. I like this. This is a nice little tool, and I'm definitely going to check out this this command line interface. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so we've been doing surveys. That's one thing I didn't talk about. We're at a weird spot. This is one of the few months in the year where John and I actually have a little bit of a break between the user groups that we run. Typically, we have about a week in between each user group meetup to organize things, to make sure things are, speakers are going to show up. And this week, we actually have a little bit of a break between our meetups because we have an extra week between our meetups, which is cool. It's like a little mini vacation for me. But I recently at the Laravel meetup sent out a survey because I shared with you guys on the previous shows that I had gotten a little frustrated with the turnout and how much engagement I was getting there. So I put together a quick survey and sent it out and got some great feedback. And nothing unexpected, but it was good. It's always good to kind of send out surveys and get a feel for things and see where things are. And that kind of leads into our next little topic here. The Stack Overflow Developer Survey results for 2017. Did you guys take a look at those?
Yeah, I came across this because I was looking for a place for 40-something white males to congregate, and this is just a giant list of 40-something white males.
It really is. So something sits a little weird with me on this, which was, if you look at one of the first results they show are the developer type. And in the survey, the people taking the survey, 72%, almost 73%, 72.6% are web developers, right? Mm-hmm. So you keep that in mind. And you go through here and it's overwhelmingly Caucasian, it's overwhelmingly male. We know about all this. But
straight Caucasian.
Yeah.
Prefer not to say if they're disabled. Parents with bachelor's degrees.
So where things start to get a little weird to me is if you get down to programming languages. JavaScript leads it with 62.5. Okay, I get that. Everybody does JavaScript. No matter what you're doing, chances are you do JavaScript.
Everyone needs help with JavaScript.
Yeah.
I mean, of
SQL
all the things
follows
that are
that
best snippeted, JavaScript, it works best in snippets that you can just copy and paste.
Sure. SQL follows that up. Okay, I can get that as well. We're all developing web applications.
Not really a programming language in my mind.
Not really, but if you want to say it, fine, say it. Java, yeah, okay, I can buy that. Then we fall into C#. Really? C#?
Okay. Well, go back to the top. Mobile.
There's a lot of enterprise out there, a lot of Microsoft shops out there. Okay, C#. It's a little bit of a stretch for me, but that's fine. That's number 4 on the list. Number 5 on the list, Python. What? Excuse me? Python? Did I miss something? Did Python become relevant in the web industry? Really?
Well, I'll tell you what. It is not because of web. So, if you look above that, the types of education that are predominant here are self-taught. 90% of people responding are self-taught. Now, if you're doing some kind of high school or college level programming courses, what they're going to stick you with is Java and Python. Python is the language of mathematics programming in college. So, a lot of Python out there. Now, there's a lot of Python for portability too. A lot of the applications that I run are Python applications. So I have tools that help in downloading the latest episodes of my favorite shows. Those are all services running as Python in the background. Just because Python
that's fine,
runs
but again, keep in mind what an overwhelmingly response was on web developers that were responding to this.
Yeah,
and they're still saying.
My assumption, it says right here, select all that apply. So when they got to this page, they checked off all the programming languages they knew. So while the vast majority were web developers, a lot of web developers know Python and PHP, and then you get to the other industries where they only know Python.
Now I'm surprised
Perhaps.
to see Ruby down here at 9.1%.
Right. So we should follow that up. So Python was number 5 at 32%. PHP was number 6 at 28.1. And they even make a note of it. This is the first time in 5 years that Python beat out PHP. So PHP dipped after 5 years to number 6. C++ then is in at 22 and a third. And then we start dropping off pretty. C is at 19, and then it gets pretty significant drop-offs after that. But yeah, I was actually surprised to see Ruby at 9.1%. That seems really low for Ruby.
Now,
And Go.
our beloved Laravel framework doesn't even show up on their frameworks list.
What?
It's too easy, I guess, for people to use the documentation on Laravel. They don't need to go to Stack Overflow for it.
I didn't even notice the framework one. Well, look at the frameworks that are on here, though. Well, I mean, Node is huge. Angular, yeah, again, .NET Core, React, Cordova, Firebase. I'm kind of surprised.
Again, mobile development's going to increase that one a lot.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me is that the salaries page here indicates that I am grossly overpaid for what I bring to the table.
Where is salaries? I need to see salaries.
Who says that? Who admits to that? I'm talking in public. Yeah, I'm grossly overpaid.
Yeah. I don't even know why people listen to what I have to say.
Wait, where's salary? Oh, I see salary.
Yeah.
How are we paying people here?
But you gotta look across the country. You have people working in little places where 50,000 is a ton of money, and then you go to California and 50,000 you can barely live on.
John, I think we need to start looking into India and Romania for some development. Poland,
France,
the Russian Federation, Mexico, John, Mexico. It's right here. It's like literally right down the street from us. We need to start getting some developers. We need to start PHP user group in Tijuana.
Now, this is of the 465 responses they've received for areas like Canada and France. This isn't a huge sample base as far as salaries. It looks like most people opted not to say how much they made. But it is interesting to see that in France, a QA engineer makes more money than any other programming profession, including data scientist and machine learning specialist.
Interesting.
And one last thing I want to point out on this is the developer environment, where they split out IntelliJ from PHP Storm, from PyCharm, which aren't those all built on the same?
Yeah, they're all IntelliJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt. And
it's a survey.
Yeah.
It's an enormous survey. We couldn't even begin to go through all of this. But 51,300
who takes such long?
responded. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of it is collected, or I don't remember getting this email to take this survey, so my guess is it doesn't apply to me at all.
Would have been a long ass survey, that's for sure.
So we're moving on. I don't know what John was going to say, but we're just going to skip right past it.
I was going to move on just like you were to the next story. One that I've seen come up on Facebook a few times now, about the FBI who arrests a hacker who hacked no one.
And this actually was submitted by a listener. A listener reached out to me and said, "Hey, it was on Twitter," and said, "Hey, I'd be interested in what you guys think of this." Actually, I believe his exact words were what Thomas would think of this. I would have to verify that, but
what everybody else would think about this?
Some bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, how would you have any other opinion?
Well, I think one of the issues here is
Explain the story before you
Well, okay,
before you go
yeah,
off on a tangent.
So the story is developer Taylor Huddleston, who has created a project called RAT, the Remote Administration Tool, which is something I've used in the past.
Well, no, it's called Nano. It's called NanoCore. It is a
Right.
rat.
A remote administration tool called NanoCore.
Yeah.
I haven't used his program in the past, but it's essentially a sysadmin tool for spying on employees. The kind of thing that a lot of large companies produce, like Cisco and those guys.
No, they're going to tell you it's not to spy; it's to help fix somebody's computer, so I don't have to walk into their office or remotely.
Well, no, there
Right.
are plenty of employee monitoring tools, and this falls under that umbrella of just an employee monitoring tool or personal computer monitoring tool or eavesdropping on your spouse's computer behavior.
Do you guys remember, or had you heard of Cult of the Dead Cow? Cult of the
CDC.
Dead Cow. Yeah, and their back orifice. It sounds like it's a very similar.
BO 2000.
It sounds like it's a very similar kind of thing where yes, it can definitely be used for legitimate uses, but it's one of those tools where hackers will leverage it for bad things.
Now, so the FBI hasn't said why they think he's assisting hackers, but they're implying that he's doing something more than just developing a tool. Now, he is saying that he's the victim here because his software has been pirated by these hackers and it's being used maliciously against his intentions. But the FBI is claiming that his intentions were malicious and that this software is not viable for non-malicious use. But there have been reviews of his software that state pretty clearly that it's not a malicious intent. The software operates as you would expect a remote administration tool to operate if it's trying to be covert, if it's trying to not alert users, which is one of the use cases for these types of tools.
Right.
So, I mean, unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of information on what the case is against him.
Well, this is true, but this does play into a pattern that we've been talking about on the show. I think John, you were absent during a lot of these shows, but we'd seen a similar situation occur with the CEO of Backpage, where he was actually arrested for traffic
pimping.
Was it pimping? Yeah.
He was arrested for pimping.
And it was solely based on the fact that people were using his platform. And I keep wanting to call it back office. Backdoor is just like we refer to it as a scummy Craigslist, if you can imagine that.
Right.
But people were using that to, post ads for prostitution. And I guess the law enforcement felt either he wasn't doing enough to stop it or just figured that he was involved with it and arrested him based on that connection.
Now, there has been a precedent for this in the past. There was a software package called Blackshades, which was used widely for infecting a computer, encrypting it, and then demanding a ransom to decrypt. But that was blatantly malware. It was blatantly
that was the only
intent.
purpose for it. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
the problem here is that which has entirely legitimate uses and is legitimately used by corporations is now being claimed to be malicious of intent.
Right. And I think the article does a really good job at saying why it's a concern that this gets set as a precedent, because then we're opening the door to the government coming in and shutting down things like Telegram, where they feel like there's this encrypted communication platform that bad people are using to talk to each other. So even though it might have a legitimate use, we're shutting it down because bad people are using it. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this. I think it's going to be a lot more impactful than people realize.
Well, this is very similar to the DMCA stuff as well, where it was made illegal in the early 2000s to create a tool which assisted in anti-piracy measures in any way. And this includes things like screwdrivers that are designed to remove security screws that are used by companies like Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the same way that, yeah, you can get busted for making specialty screwdrivers now, you can apparently get busted for making software that someone else uses maliciously.
Yeah. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. I think it's one of those things. I hope it plays out in how we feel it should play out, which is this guy should get a pass, but we'll see what happens.
Now, from an application that's being used maliciously, we have an application that's tracking maliciousness and being banned because of its tracking of malicious activity.
Yeah.
Just know that there's an app that can track U.S. drone strikes throughout the world.
I do now.
There's one that there is one that's not
Uh,
available to you. You mean?
Yeah, unfortunately, the app is not available on the App Store. It's been rejected 12 times, and this story came to me earlier this week that it had finally been accepted after changing its name from Drones Plus to Metadata Plus. But this news apparently sparked some interest among Apple executives because it was quickly removed again from the App Store. So it has now been 13 attempts.
Read the article so people know what we're talking about.
It's pretty simple. This guy wrote an application where he takes news articles and parses them to figure out where a drone attack has occurred. So it's not using any kind of light data or any other sensitive data. This is just publicly available of drone strikes. And
he just curates the list, and he wrote an application for iOS to show that curated list, and Apple kept continually rejecting it. And I guess it sounds like what you're saying is he changed the name of the application. Apple approved it and has since realized what they did and rejected it again.
Well, they had approved it at one point. They're saying it's excessively objectionable or crude. They did accept it in 2014, and it was up for about a year, and then all of a sudden they rejected it again. They deleted it from the App Store.
Right. So the question is, as far as I'm concerned, are they rejecting this app based on a request from the government, which there's no evidence of that? Are they rejecting this app based on their own initiatives, which it's Apple? Yes, that's why they're doing it. I don't think there's a conspiracy here. It's a private company. You're developing an application, within the constraints of the rules set by this private company. As long as it's not the government coming in and saying, "Hey, we don't like this application, Apple, remove it so that the American citizens can't see it," I would have an issue with that. But this is just Apple saying, "Yeah, we don't want this stuff on our devices." They do the same thing with porn and everything else.
But porn is one thing, but this is news. If I have a news app, if I have the New York Times app on my phone, I'm going to see about drone strikes. It may not be a curated list where all the news is about drone strikes, but I can still see that information. I can see information about I can see other news articles about people being shot or any other horrific things happening. Granted, they have other articles that are positive, or I think it's crazy. I don't know how this is excessively objectionable or crude.
And this isn't a First Amendment data, because I know people love to get behind stuff like this and say, oh, it's our First Amendment rights. We should have these rights. No, this isn't a First Amendment issue. This is purely a decision by a company. But it is approved on the Google Store.
Right. I was going to say, if this is the type of freedom that you find important, this is why you want to invest in platforms that are open. Not saying that Android is that most open platform, but it's definitely more open than the Apple platform is, and why you want to continue to push that initiative.
And the Android platform allows for third-party stores as well. So you can actually pull up if you don't like what's on the Google Play Store.
I don't think it allows for third-party stores by default. I think you have to.
Yeah,
you can hop on and install F-Droid, which is a third-party store, as soon as you get your new, Nexus.
The Amazon is its own app store too. Same thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this comes to, if you disagree with this behavior from Apple, then don't buy Apple products. Don't buy iPhones.
I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me twice.
I don't understand why.
I think that you was more broad than just you, Thomas.
Sorry. I'm in my own little world today.
Yeah, it's disappointing to see this. But as long as it's not the government stepping in, I've always been of the opinion private companies are going to do what private companies do, and the only way you can do it only way you can show as a consumer how you feel about it is with your dollars, and either not spending them with Apple and spending them with somebody else.
That would work so much better if I had dollars. What with your wallet? What am I supposed to do with my wallet? Just throw it at people?
All right. So this next one, I thought I got a little bit of a chuckle out of.
I mentioned this last week, and I'm glad to see it's been picked up by people with actual influence.
My wife asked me today. She's like, "Hey, they're saying on the news something about ISPs releasing private data now. What's that? Is that something we need to be concerned about?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's something we need to be concerned about."
That place where all your information goes is just getting violated by the government.
Right. So we talked. I think we talked about this last week, right? About how we did, because I apologized to you for not making a bigger deal out of it the week before. But how the government repealed an Obama, what was it? It was a law. It wasn't a law. It was.
It was an FCC.
It was
regulation. I think
Regulation,
that's where. Yeah.
So last week the House had passed this bill, and this week the Senate has passed the bill. So now it's moving straight on to glorious leader Donald Trump.
Number 45.
Right. Now, what you're saying is law. What happened in Obama's term wasn't law. It was just a regulation by the FCC.
And
sure, it was just saying
what that regulation said is it said ISP providers basically couldn't sell their customers' data, like their private data.
No, it wasn't even that. It was you had to opt in. They had to get your permission to sell it. So they were allowed to, but you had to opt in.
Now,
a little bit different.
So
it's slightly different, but it basically meant that the bulk collection of data would be much more difficult because they'd have to individually get people to opt in.
But now
what's interesting is Minnesota.
Hold on, let's catch everybody up on the story. Now they're passing a law that lifts that ban, basically, that says that ISPs don't have to get permission from their consumers to sell their
And-
data.
And what's even worse is there's no way to opt out. You can't say you're not allowed to.
Correct.
Right.
And worse than that, it takes the authority of the FCC off of the internet. So the FCC can no longer regulate the internet in the way that it has since the internet has started. So now there is no regulatory board that actually oversees the behavior of companies that provide internet access or companies that use the internet to market to people. Basically, spam laws that we had or consumer protecting laws are just gone. My first thought was, boy, I'd love to buy the browser data for a number of politicians. And fortunately for us, the creator of Cards Against Humanity has pledged to buy and publish Congress's browser history. So once it's available, he's going to drop down the money and buy it and publish it, which I think is great.
You think he's actually going to do it, though?
He paid almost $1 million to dig a pointless hole.
What's that?
He live streamed the digging of a hole with a backhoe and funded it, crowdfunded it, and I think got close to $1 million worth of time dedicated to digging a giant hole in a field. The guy has a twisted sense of humor, and I think this is exactly what he would do with his money.
I think it's going to be great to see what comes of this. I don't know what everybody's expecting to see, but I'm not really anticipating to see a whole lot. I mean, it would be funny to see some porn pop up, but I don't know. I bet it doesn't really amount to much of anything.
Well, we'll find out, unless you're in Minnesota.
Well, why Minnesota?
I like that.
You guys didn't hear about Minnesota? They decided they were going to jump on this, and they said, "Oh no, that's not cool. Any company operating in Minnesota is going to require express written approval from the customer before collecting their data."
Nice.
So they put the handcuffs on hard.
Thomas.
Yes, sir.
What baseball team's in Minnesota?
Vikings.
All right, stop. So I like that Max, the creator of Cards Against Humanity, also tweeted out it's not going to be a Kickstarter like the digging the whole thing was. He's just going to buy it and publish it.
Available. He's on the dollar. I'm excited about that. I'd love to see what our elected representatives are into.
You see a bunch of Pizza Hut orders. And that is their football team. You're getting better at this. The only reason I asked is because you said their team earlier in the show.
The Blue
so
Hawks?
I thought maybe you knew it. No, the Twins.
So confused.
I like
The
to
Minnesota
establish a
Twins,
fine line
John,
between
it's a baseball team. They play baseball in the Major League Baseball division group.
How do we keep getting back to freaking baseball?
Because
I don't
it's
get it.
freaking baseball season. It starts tomorrow.
Eric's
Take
got
me out to
hype
the
going.
ball game.
There's only like one.
Da-da-da-da-da.
There's only like 1 month that's not baseball season. So why are you so excited?
Anti-American. This is
Baseball goes
why
on way
Trump
too
is in
long.
office, because of people like you.
Do you guys know what spearfishing is?
I do.
Yes.
I did it when I lived in the islands. No, you're talking something else, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm talking different. I'm talking targeted attacks against individuals. So the idea with phishing is that you send out an email with a nefarious link on it or a virus or something like that. You send it out to as many people as you can. But there's a more sophisticated version, which is called spear phishing. And this is at the target, write an email explicitly addressing the target and what they're interested in, who their family members are, things like that. to try and up the value of the attack. And there's been some interesting reports lately about very targeted attacks at open source developers on GitHub. Have you guys heard anything about this?
I had not heard of it, no, and I didn't even get a chance to read this article. So, what sort of attacks are being targeted at open source developers?
Well, it appears that someone is trying to get to major open source project contributors. And the fact that they're targeting GitHub contributors sort of indicates that they're trying to sneak malware into open source projects. We at this point we don't know who it is. We don't know why they're doing it, but there has been an active campaign on GitHub users.
So, what's the campaign exactly? I'm not sure I'm following what's happening.
Well, the targets will receive an email that is customized to them and will have attachments compromise the user's computer in some way. These, once compromised, then the person can sort of act as the person that they've attacked and insert code into projects or the like. It's a very advanced piece of software. It's on the scale of the nation state attacking programs. So it isn't just some off the shelf, easy to use software. It's a pretty advanced project called Dimny, which originally started as a Russian project, and a lot of the IPs that are being tracked are pointing at Russia, but it's difficult to say that that's actually the source of these attacks.
So it's interesting that they're targeting open source developers because the projects would be in open source projects, and even if they did manage to infect them and maybe take over control over a repo, I don't know. It seemed like it would be tough to maintain a vulnerability in an open source project for any real amount of time.
Doesn't matter once it's in there. New people installing it or people updating get whatever's happening. So if they install malware into Laravel, for example, then all of a sudden every website that is backed by Laravel is able to inject code into everybody's websites that once you visit it, they get infected. I mean, it could be massive, even if it's found within the Laravel framework quickly.
Yeah,
there could be a lot of damage done.
We've discussed in the past vulnerabilities with WordPress and how they're upgrading to a signed updates system that can be harder to compromise. The problem is if someone did compromise the WordPress GitHub account, that system would not defend against any attacks. So they could quickly, if they had a payload ready and they compromised the WordPress site, then they could distribute this payload to every WordPress site within hours. So, and it's part of the toolkit for nation states to have pocket access, to be able to compromise at will because they've had it compromised for a good amount of time. So if you're a GitHub developer and you get a suspicious email, don't read it. Delete
Not
it.
even GitHub developer. If you get a suspicious email, don't open it.
Especially if you're a GitHub developer, though. Did I ever tell you that my wife thought I was cheating on her? Because of a spam email? It just said, "Hey, I saw your Craigslist ad. Why don't you check me out?" And it was a link to a webcam site. And she was furious. I'll never live that down. So yeah, don't open suspicious email. In fact, delete it. Don't just not open it.
It's,
Delete it.
it's not
do the
like
trash.
it's not like a million people are downloading open source projects.
Except for one or two.
I think everyone.
That's the best lead in I can give you guys. Come on, somebody pick it up.
You did really good with it.
Good
There is
God.
one project. You want to do that segue again, so I can pick
Oh.
up on what you're putting at now?
I really don't. I want to finish the show. Is what I'm looking forward to now.
Have you okay?
I'm
Have
out
you
of
guys used
scotch.
hash
Listen,
IDs?
I'm out of. Look, this is how out of scotch I am right now. See, you guys, this is my scotch bottle. Look at that. There's nothing left. We have to finish the
So
show
we drank?
soon.
I have heard of it. I've not personally used it.
Now, see, I've
I
not
don't
just
have
heard of it,
don't
but
have a need for it.
a friend of the show, Adam Wathen, was recently asking about something similar to this and ended up using this project, I believe. So the project is hash IDs. It is a open source library to convert numbers into sort of random IDs that can be used safely-ish on emails and URLs and things like that. It's a great little project, but this article might be the best thing that's ever come out of the project itself, because this is an amazing blog post. Have you guys read any of this?
I did, and I really appreciate the developer saying, I've learned a lot from my time doing this. And he basically is just sharing his experience with an open source project, starting from the very simple. It's going to take longer than you think. You may have a super simple project, but it's not necessarily going to take a weekend to complete. So it's a lot of
there's some amazing quotes and just lines in here. If someone hates you, you've done something right.
yeah,
That
I
is
like that
nice
a
to
lot.
hear. That is so nice to hear. Because God, I have written blog posts in the past, and the only comments I get are, "You're an idiot. That's not how you do it. You do it this way." And he says quite simply, it's the loud assholes that are out there that are going to be the ones that show up on your posts.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are going to be questioning your work, and they're not worth paying attention to. And he even gives an example of specific developers or specific trolls who tried to make him their problem. But it is an at length article, and it's amazing what he gets into. He states that
I was just gonna say I like that he's giving advice to open source maintainers. If you're going to start a new project, he's doing a lot for you there.
Yeah, and he talks about the community, which it's great to see. After he released the library, a UK developer ported it over to Go, and he thought that was really cool. And then a dev in Sweden ports it to Ruby, and then Python from Munich, Java from China, Elixir from Ukraine, C from Bulgaria, and another developer has jumped in to help maintain the PHP version that he originally wrote. It's the things in the open source community coming together in this way, and it's awesome to see how normal people deal with the issues of having a project hit 1 million downloads that is just something they made.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have this link in the show notes, but I recommend everyone really read through the whole thing, because it's such an inspirational post for anyone who's trying to do open source development and keeps banging their head against the wall. Oh, finally. Oh boy, this article.
Is it?
I wasn't sure if we were talking about this one or not.
Eric's got a big smile.
It's a goofy article, man.
There has been a kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
Is that how you state it?
A kerfuffle. There's been a lot of controversy community right now, because a a major contributor, a man who's built his career around Drupal and the Drupal community, has been completely ousted from the community. And it
So you're talking about Larry Garfield, right? And he's been with the Drupal project for a very long time. I mean, he's like you said,
12 years now.
He's one of the head figures in the Drupal development environment.
So he got what is called doxed. Someone found out details about his personal life and decided to use that information to get him removed from the Drupal project. Now, the details about his private life.
Speculation. Yeah, that's speculation. It was never so basically what had happened is Larry's into some pretty freaky stuff.
Not that
it's not for you, but John over here, I mean, this curl his toes.
You can't assume to know. He's interested in the Gore community, GOR, which is a sort of a subset of the BDSM community. It's sci-fi role play, master slave relationship, and it is a community that generally establishes women as subservient to men.
Right.
But
and so
it is
apparently Larry had a profile on some site that caters to this community. It's not anything he brought into his work or his Drupal development environment or anything like that. And it appears what had happened is soon after this was found out about Larry, he was asked to step down by a prominent organization that has a professional interest in Drupal. They claim that one had nothing to do with the other, but it just seems really suspicious with the timing. So they've never said that is why we asked him to step down.
They've actually never said why they asked him to step down at all. They have a code of conduct.
Part of the problem. Well,
yeah, they have rules.
But they never said that they never cited that he violated the code of conduct. Right? I mean, that's not what they. And like you said, they're not saying anything. They're not saying anything about why they will go as far as to say that they're not releasing him because of this interest was found out about him, which is odd that they would say that and not say why they're looking. Because I mean, really, what are you worried about? You're worried about ruining his reputation when this other stuff has been released about him. I mean, really, why are you releasing him then? To give us some information.
So Larry published a blog post on his own site, basically coming out completely, stating that the actions and the behaviors of the community leaders were oriented towards his personal life, and it is a hell of a read. We're talking about 20 pages, maybe 30 pages, running down all the conversations that he's had with the people at Drupal, up to him getting removed from the Drupal community. Now, he was asked to step down, and he said no, he hadn't broken any rules. And so he was summarily removed from the community by the person in charge of operating the community member base. So the question is why does it take a couple people's complaints about your personal life to get you removed from your source of income, your livelihood in your community? And has Drupal done?
It's a tough one. And again, we can harken back back to the days where coming out of the closet would have had this sort of impact. And fortunately, fortunately, we have, as a society, for the most part, have matured past that. Without a lot of insight on why they actually are looking for him to step down, this particular aspect of it, I'm not getting. I don't know. I've always felt, and I have older daughters now. They're 19, and they're finding their way into adulthood. And the one thing that we keep stressing to them is you're not basing who you are based on your sexuality or who you're in a relationship with. You are who you are as a whole, as everything that you've worked towards piled together. That one aspect of your life doesn't define you, and it should define you. Other people shouldn't define you by it, and you shouldn't allow it to define you. Same thing as, it just shouldn't be that aspect. And we as people have different interests, and we compartmentalize them. I am a huge baseball person. I would never bring that onto this podcast. You would probably have never known I was a big baseball person, no. But it's disappointing, because as long as everybody's adult, as long as nobody's hurting or breaking laws or hurting other people, then, if that's a part of their life, let it be a part of their life. If they try to bring that into an environment where it's not appropriate for it to be, that's a different conversation. But it doesn't seem to be that was the case.
No, I mean, the case here is that he was targeted by somebody who style and was able to get Drupal to act as executioners even against their own conflict resolution policy. Yeah. Drupal, like any large project, has codes of conduct and conflict resolution policies, things that are written down so that things could be resolved in a correct way. And that whole system, which was established to protect LGBTQ, to protect minorities in software development.
I think you might have missed a couple of letters there, but I think there are more letters have been added since. But go ahead.
It's like LGBTQRST.
Something.
Yeah, but now somehow this example of a guy being targeted and attacked for what isn't even a belief structure, it's just a role-playing stance. I mean, there are plenty of role-playing people in the open source community. I can guarantee you that a lot of people have their character sheets saved on their computers somewhere. And his version of his role-playing community involved relationship complications between men and women, and how those issues are resolved in a fictional universe on Mars. And this attack basically took his behavior in character and published it to the world and said, this is what he really thinks. We should fire him and make sure that he can never make money off Drupal again. It's really shameful. I can't see how a community that is working so hard to be inclusive can be so summarily exclusive to something that has never been an issue in the community, has never been brought up, and was taken completely invasively and used as an attack. It's disgusting.
I agree. And it's for these very reasons I don't make it public that I found John's profile on Grindr. I mean, people just take that. What was I doing on Grindr? Who knows, right? I mean, is it anybody's business?
Not at all. You should check that profile out. I did a good job on it.
I liked your picture. It was a good angle for you.
Yeah, couldn't see your face in it. Couldn't really verify it was you, but still.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Hopefully they work, or hopefully if they don't work it out, Larry finds another project that interests him and makes money off of it.
Yeah, I just think it sucks to see a community like Drupal end up under the thumb of lifestyle judges.
Well, and like you said, in a day and age where everybody's harping about being all inclusive, about not being judgy and not being judgmental and accepting people, and and then this happened. It's like, really, seriously, it's yeah, it's disappointing. Was that your doom and gloom? Did we hit doom and gloom? I guess we hit a few doom and glooms. Half the show felt like it was doom and gloom.
A good amount of it was doom and gloom.
Your fans will be excited. Tom is getting his own little subculture of of doom and gloom fans. I get people pinging me all the time.
Yeah, we actually received some information from a listener.
Eduardo sent you some links. I forwarded those to you. Did you see those?
I did, and I can't find them.
They're in Slack.
So Eduardo sent us some links to privacy protection tools. The topic of what the government is making legal now has brought it to hand.
Did you take that as an opening or a segue to start talking about these links, dude? I thought we were wrapping up.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we should be. It's late. We're already an hour and 20 minutes in.
Well, we've got some personal protection tools that we'll post on our show notes. VPNs that you can get running up on yourself, and security suites named after Barbra Streisand. So,
did you ever add the links you promised the fans you would add to last show notes? No, I bet you didn't. Did you?
No, I don't do that.
It's going to be interesting to see how this editing comes along. So for everybody listening to the show, this is going to be Thomas's first attempt at editing the show. So we'll see how after several weeks of me saying, "Hey Thomas, I'm going to edit the show today. Do you want to watch me?" "No, I'm busy. I got things going on." No, he's taking it over.
3 teenagers, okay.
So we'll see. So marketing your books, episode 55, Thomas's first edits.
Yes, it will be the first show. It'll be the first show I hosted entirely by myself.
The important thing you have to remember to put in that music at the end of the show that should be playing right now to let fans know that the show's over. There's a little music playing in the background.
So John's just itching to get out.
We're wrapping it up. No, he's
scratching at the door like your office manager.
That's the great part about this, Thomas. You can just edit that out. Like John never even had to have actually said that. You just edited it all out. All right, but we will be wrapping up the show today. It's late. It's Saturday. I know it's super late for you, Thomas. It's we're looking at 10:30 here, 11:30 for you.
Super late doesn't get till 4:00.
Yeah. Episode 55, PHP Ugly. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Perfect.
Use a VPN.
Somebody say their name again, please.
I'm John Congdon.
That'll work.
I'm Tom Rideout. Use a VPN.
It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
It's just we're spiraling.
I feel like I need to write that out or something.